welcome everyone to another episode of the Strive for Good Life podcast. I'm here with Dwight Dale Miller, who is a transformative coach, author, and healer. Welcome to the show, Dwight.
All right. Thank you, Nino. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. Just based on our conversation last time, we've got some fun things to get into. So maybe just give the audience a little bit of a background on yourself and kind of what led you to becoming a coach and a healer.
Okay. I'll try not to go too much down the rabbit hole, but I have a very strong business background. I have a degree in finance. I was a CPA for about 15 years. I've been self-employed. I was a realtor. I owned a franchise selling business. And now obviously I'm doing the healing and coaching work, but I was also a corporate finance director of a very large company. I had 2 business units at one point where I was the financial leader. They did about 700 million in annual sales. And later I was the global leader of the logistics arm of this global company that was a $20 billion sales company. So I have a lot of business background at varying levels. What led to me doing what I do now? I guess suffering was the beginning. Like 2010, life just brought me to my knees, right? And I started asking myself a lot of questions.
Yeah, okay.
I hadn't asked before,
Yeah, we can get into those questions. I'm curious a little bit about your experience in the corporate world. What were it sounds like, so you were an accountant, right? But you worked for a massive sales company. Did you learn sales skills there? Or, was it just straight accounting the whole time?
I did some accounting that I got into financial planning and analysis. The sales I really learned in real estate and selling franchises. Like in my franchise sales business, I was a territory manager. So it was my job to recruit and sell the franchise within my territory, right?
Okay.
And I had a couple states. I had Arizona and Louisiana, so I was traveling a lot. But I did all my own marketing. I would usually focus on people who already own businesses because I wanted people with business skills and savvy, right, instead of newbies. But I did everything from the marketing to the sales to the operational support and some of the training.
Okay, so you were prospecting and building your own business essentially just under this umbrella.
Exactly.
Okay. And then you went out on your own, right, with franchises, it sounds like, I think I remember correctly. So tell us a little bit about that transition.
Well, and again, it was a life change. Like I got divorced and I had 3 little girls, Nino. They were not even 1, 5, and 6 at the time. Okay. And I was in corporate finance at the time. And for any of your audience that's involved with corporate finance, we worked a lot of hours, right? And I wanted to be there for my girls. I wanted to take them to school. I wanted to take them to volleyball and Girl Scouts and all these things, right? And I had started investing in real estate, at one point in time. And I was able to take some equity out of those houses and buy the franchise business. And I enjoyed real estate. So I started doing that for myself instead of having my realtor make all the commissions because I was doing the work and finding the properties and he was showing up and getting paid, basically. So that's what did it. The real catalyst was me wanting to be there for my girls.
Okay. All right. So just feeling the time constraint and wanting to be there for them, I think that's amazing. There's so many parents out there that wish they could spend more time with their children, their families, and it just sounds like you took control of that. It sounds like that's kind of a pattern in a lot of the things that you've done. You really own it. I mean, with real estate, it sounds like, you just cut the middleman right out, and a lot of people don't do that, right? So what do you think in your mind, drives you to take that level of ownership of things as opposed to just kind of floating along like everyone else does, doing it by the book, so to speak? What would you say about that?
I think it's somewhat my personality. First of all, I have to enjoy it. I'm not going to go do something better than someone else if I'm not going to enjoy it, right? That's the stuff I want to farm out, like painting. I could paint my house, right? But I would hate every minute of it. So I'll happily pay a painter who will do an amazing job for me, right? And I think in business, it's the same way. Like maybe you don't like marketing or you're not good at marketing. So you probably need to find someone who enjoys it and who is good at it, right? I mean, right now, I have a publicist and she's very good at what she does, right? She connected you and I together. Otherwise, we wouldn't have met, you know? And it's not, I don't enjoy spending a lot of time surfing the web and reaching out to people I don't know, you know, but she's got those connections so I can leverage her, and that's helps me grow my business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. I mean, I agree 100%. You got to farm out the stuff that you're not going to, I mean, we like to kid ourselves as entrepreneurs and think that we can do anything. And that's true to some degree, right? But, you know, obviously we got to put our time towards the high value, high return activities that are going to take us forward and not just bog down our time. So I think that's a solid point. So tell me a little bit about, so you were in franchises, sounds like you were doing some real estate, you know, where did you go from there and why shift away from those things?
Again, it's another journey because I was in real estate in Phoenix when the real estate crashed like 15 years ago. Okay. So my timing has been interesting because I had started my full-time real estate and franchise business in 2006 in Phoenix. Okay. We went to the real estate boom and then everything crashed, right? And at the same time, the real estate crash, some people don't remember, but it was a banking crisis and banks stopped lending to small businesses. So what happened to my franchise business was similar to what happened to my real estate business, right? And threw a divorce in there. And this is when I had my big kind of waking up like, okay, Dwight, you've done it by the book. You know, you worked your ass off. You're a good dad. You're doing all these things, but it's just not working out. And I wasn't happy other than my parents' responsibility because my girls are amazing. And this is when I started asking questions, and it really started like an incredibly deep level of self-awareness and self-improvement. Like I read all the books, right? The self-improvement books, Napoleon Hill, right? Everything, every book out there, I had read it. And at some point, you know, I realized the conscious mind and our thoughts and positive thinking, right? That's 5% compared to the subconscious, they say, okay? And later, when I got into the healing work, I've discovered that there's this whole energy work and emotion, like how to manage your emotions and your energy, and even the spiritual component for anyone who's spiritual. I believe each of those components are all more powerful than just the conscious mind. So there's this whole new universe I've explored, and I've gone down that rabbit hole. If you read my books, they're the kind of books that most people will never have read anything like that before.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this whole topic is really fascinating. And I think, you know, the people that struggle in business, struggle getting off the ground, starting, you know, and putting themselves out there into the world. I think it usually comes back to these types of issues that they're having blocks with. And so, let's maybe get into it a little bit more. Like what kind of things more specifically do you help people with? And, you know, how do they start, you know, working through those issues?
All right. Thank you for asking. You mentioned a very popular and key word. It's called blocks. Okay. And I like people to view this box. Like most of us live our monkey brains. It's our conscious thoughts and what we've experienced. Okay. And we're kind of limited by that. And let's say you lived in a forest and you're familiar with this part of the forest or this part of your city. We don't often go outside of that part of the forest or the city we're comfortable with, right? And when you're looking to grow and change, that's usually going to require you going outside of your comfort zone, okay? So what I do with people is I get them outside of this box. And there's some really powerful ways to do that, like some powerful questions. I also like to use visualizations and what I'll call play, because if I say, Nino, imagine 3 years from now, and 3 years ago today when we met, you just got better insight and clarity into your life, and you started making better decisions. You started doing the things that mattered, and you really had much better focus, okay? So 3 years from now, when I meet you, we just unexpectedly meet each other at the airport. And I want you to tell me how you're doing at that time 3 years from now.
Oh, I mean, I could just imagine that I'm doing really well. I'm successful in all the areas that I want to be. I feel greater peace and less stress right in my life. If I've done things correctly, I'm healthier. Yeah.
And when I take people there and they go there in a session, it's amazing how clearly and specifically they can see it. And I'll be like, well, who's your best client right now? And they'll say, oh, it's this woman. She owns her own business, and I'm helping her do this and this and this and this and this. And they might go just ramble like 15 minutes straight, right? They have so much clarity. And this is how we expand, okay? So then I'll say, well, this Nino 3 years from now, what is he like? What does it feel like to be him, right? Does he have any habits now that are different than yours? Does he have any qualities that are different than this version of Nino, right? And I want you to feel into it. And then it's kind of like I'll have the person write like 3 minutes as fast as they can. Each of these different things, we're going really fast at kind of a high level here. But it's amazing, right? They're like, boom. So I'm like, ultimately, you just need to be this person, right? This future successful person. We need to bring that person into this version of you, okay? And we all have certain limitations from our experiences, blocks, like you say. I'm usually very intuitive at what people's blocks are. Sometimes people know what their blocks are. They're like, Dwight, I'm afraid of making a mistake. I have anxiety with people, right? It's usually based on an earlier experience, okay? And just like we just went 3 years into the future and you can feel and see that person, and now we can compare and design new habits and maybe some growth opportunities or some blocks to remove. By the way, you can let go negative energy. You can also bring in positive energy. Okay. This is how powerful you are. So something I say a lot in my new book is this is how powerful you are. Because we have no idea how powerful we are, but we tend to use our power against ourselves. Like I was talking to someone the other day, I guess Saturday. He said, what about this? He asked me, he said, I know these people, they say, every time things are going really great in my life, something bad happens. Okay. And I'm like, this is how powerful you are. If that's what you believe, the universe is going to prove to you that you're right. It's going to bring you experiences that validate that that's true. Okay. So this is something you can just switch. You say, okay, well, what if every time I'm feeling good and great, things just keep getting better? Okay. Now your conscious mind initially is going to go, right? But if you keep saying it, and you can also phrase it as a question. If it's a question the monkey mind can't answer, those are the best. Like, why do I keep feeling younger and younger? Or whatever. Like I have probably 25 questions I like to go over like that. And the universe is going to show me. It's like when you hit search on Google, okay? Questions are incredibly powerful. And imagining and visualizing and feeling, right? These are all things that are not conscious mind, okay? We're at a whole different level when we play like this. When you ask a question, you hit search on that universe Google, okay? And it's out there looking for the answer. It has to close that loop, and it's going to bring you the answer eventually. You got to be paying attention to see it. You know, that's part of an awareness. But this is how people's lives are transformed. They get an awareness or a perspective that they never had before.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, the whole thing. I always imagine, man, if I could just do all the things I know I shouldn't be doing, right? And if I could get out of my own way, I mean, I could do anything. I could conquer the world, so to speak, right? So it's something that I've thought a lot about and you know, tried to do my own research on a little bit, and I don't know how far I've gotten with it, but you know, so when you talk about the universe bringing you things, is that just because a lot of people talk about the RAS, right, the reticular activating system, so in your brain, that function that helps you focus on the things that you implant in your subconscious? Are you talking about that, or is it actually something spiritual going on, or what's your take on that?
Okay, it's a beautiful question. Like I break the mental down into conscious thoughts. We have identities, we have mindsets or attitudes, right? There's different components. I'll break down the mental in. One of the biggest things I focus on with people is, how did it make you feel? Okay. And this is where we get into the emotions and the energy of it. When you talk about a block, it's from an experience. It's not the experience, what happened. It's how it made you feel, right? There's that one famous quote that you won't remember exactly what a person said or did, but you remember how they made you feel. Okay. Well, I view us as energy beings. I feel energy and I'm trained in energy healing. So I'm a little out there with it, but all of us are connected. And energy, this is like acupuncture, right? I mean, the Chinese and Eastern understandings, like traditional Chinese medicine, they've understood for thousands of years that emotions affect the body and certain organs, and there's energy flows in the body. If for law of attraction people, like you attract whatever you're vibrating right now, this is your energy. So like if I do what I'll call spiritual coaching, okay, I train people to start to notice your emotions. Okay. How does an experience make you feel? If something comes up during the week that makes you feel anxiety or anger or resentment, whatever it is, okay, this is the universe's way of showing you, Nino, that let's just use resentment as an example, that you have resentment in your field that you haven't dealt with. And this is why you see patterns in people's lives and in relationships. People marry their parents because they had these emotional experiences early in their life and they still have the blocks, so they're repeating the same patterns. Okay. And when you remove the energy, the emotion of that initial experience, you destroy the pattern and the block is no longer there. It's the most profound thing I experienced on my journey is, like, you see these Zen monks, right? They literally do not experience anger or resentment, for example. It's not in their field. If it's not in your field, you cannot experience it. Okay. Positive or negative. So if you want to start to manifest, right, you've got to bring these positive vibrations into your field because you're going to attract whatever's at the same level you are. Trying to bring this down to more tangible.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of the application a little bit because, for example, when you said that people marry their parents, I mean, obviously divorce isn't always the right answer, right? To just get rid of that problem. I mean, if you're struggling in your marriage because of those blocks, right? Like I always recommend people actually try to work through that instead of just walking away. So it's interesting. I'm trying to think of, how I can, start practicing some of this stuff. I mean, it sounds like you have some writing exercises. Is there meditation? Are there other like practical things that you coach your client? I'm assuming, right? Some other tricks you've got. What kind of things are those?
Yeah, I'll do a lot of visualization. If someone's into meditation, I can do a full meditation. A lot of times people may be able to feel energy in their body. If I had you scan your body right now for any resistance, is there any part or area that comes out to you?
And what comes to mind is in my back right now. I don't know why.
Okay.
Really tight.
Is it low back or where is it?
That's kind of mid back.
Okay. Now
Maybe a little higher.
that symptom, when you feel into it, are there any emotions you associate with it? How does it make you feel?
Yeah, stressed out, maybe a little bit. I don't know, just holding on to
Okay.
some stuff, probably.
All right. And this is one the audience can play along with, right? I want everyone to scan your body, find some energy that you'd prefer not be there. It's a little clunky or a little stuck, or maybe you have aches or pains. Okay. Most of what is affecting the body is emotions. Like you mentioned stress. A lot of people, they feel the stress and then they get tight neck and shoulder muscles, right? So this is what the feeling, the energy affects the physical body. Okay. It's affecting our energy flow in a lot of ways. This is why I coach people. 1, be aware of your thoughts. 2, be aware of your emotions. Okay. But to continue this example, we're going to play. Would you like to play a little bit with this energy you're feeling?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. If it had a shape, Nino, and everyone can give theirs their own characteristics here, what shape is that energy?
I don't know. Maybe like a hill-like shape. Maybe like the bell curve. Something like that. That's what pops into my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone can get a shape. It's amazing. If it had a color or colors, what color would it be?
I want to say yellow.
Yellow. Awesome. Does it feel hot or cold?
Probably warmer.
All right, warmer.
On the colder side.
Nice. Now, is it kind of shiny or dull?
I would say dull.
Okay. Is it smooth or rough or spiky? What's the texture of it?
I think pretty smooth.
Okay. All right. Now, on the count of 3, Nino, I want you to imagine that you've got energetic fingers or whatever you want. There's no rules here. On the count of 3, you're going to reach in and you're going to pull that out. Okay.
Like basically reach with my hand somewhere to
just visualize it. We're just imagining.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Don't bring the brain into it. We don't have to figure anything out. This is just play and imagining. Okay. This is expansive. This is how we expand. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3, pull it out. Boom.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I feel like there's definitely a difference.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's interesting. I still feel something there. It's not complete, but it feels lighter. I feel a little bit less of a blockage.
Okay.
And it might just be that I have back issues or something. I don't know.
All right. Well, this is good. The key thing is you felt it. And almost everyone listening to this that did it will feel it, because this is how powerful you are. Now, if you still have a little bit, you just do it again. Okay. So I want you to tune in to whatever's left. Give it a shape. What color is it? Is it hot or is it cold or somewhere in between? Is it shiny or dull? And what's the texture? Is it rough, smooth, spiky? Whatever. We're just imagining and playing. Now on the count of 3, you're going to pull it out. 1, 2, 3, pull it out. Boom.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's definitely, yeah. Definitely, feel a difference. That's interesting. That's interesting. I don't really quite know how to put words to it, but it doesn't feel like something, pulled through the rest of my body or anything like that, but it's gone. It's gone for the most part. I think maybe just a tiny bit left, but I see the power in this. Definitely. There's something to it.
So some of the people who did this, they've had pain, and they may have had pain for years, and they just released it. This is how powerful that little thing can be. Okay. I'll do other visualizations where there's like cord pulling. Okay. And visualizations, it's just play. So when you play and imagine, the conscious mind doesn't have to step in and limit you. Right? The conscious mind, some of you are going to say, this is stupid while we're doing it. What the hell am I doing? I've never done anything like this before. This is weird or whatever. But then something happens that you've never experienced before. And then it's like when you ask me, what do I do? It's a little hard for me to explain it. You can see why. This is like the very basic.
Right.
And my most advanced program will connect with your soul and will clear all your karma, all your resistance, all your agreements and everything. We literally set you free because your soul wants you to be free. Okay. That's a little more of a spiritual discussion, right? But there's many levels.
Yeah.
Now, like back pain, low back pain, for example. We're told that it's from sitting all the time, okay? If that was the case, almost everyone on this planet would have back pain, right? But what I found is you have a huge energy center in the Eastern philosophies, their chakras. It would be the sacral chakra or the Dantian. It's basically your belly button and sacral, okay? A lot of us are giving away our power in our lives. In our relationships, maybe we'll let other people make decisions for us. Maybe we had an experience in our life where we felt helpless and powerless, okay? It's those energies that affect the low back. Like I had sciatica from a car accident, so it gave me a lot of insight into the emotions of low back pain. And that was when my son's pregnant mother moved away without me knowing. So I felt helpless and powerless because I had my 3 girls in Phoenix. And I didn't even know where she was, but it turns out they went to Florida. Okay, so far away. So my son was born in Florida. He's always been far from me. But at the time, that was emotionally traumatic for me, right? And I identified as a dad because my girls were still little. And I developed sciatica, so major low back pain. And now I help people release their low back pain pretty easily compared to all the other options out there.
Yeah, it's really interesting that it can be used to actually heal, not just, emotionally but to actually find relief physically. That's amazing. Pretty cool stuff. I'm curious about, are these, I imagine that some of these solutions aren't necessarily permanent, right? Like, is this stuff, is it like kind of one and done? Because I've heard stories like with hypnosis, people would go in, they want to quit smoking, and then something changes and they never smoke another cigarette again. Do you get those kinds of results, or do you have to kind of do ongoing treatment almost like you would physical therapy, or, what is the process like for someone actually getting to that end goal?
Yeah, let me add to, like, we just did some emotionals and energy. It's exactly the same for someone who has limiting beliefs or self-doubt or confidence issues. You can say, where do I feel that lack of confidence? Or you can go into that previous experience where you first started to doubt yourself and question yourself, right? All these things are releasable. So to your question, I prefer to get someone in a coaching program or at least a multi-week program, because if the symptom comes back, it's because the person's bringing it back. Like, let's just say I was feeling hopeless, okay? And that was underneath their back pain. If they continue to generate the emotional energy of hopeless, the back pain may return, okay? And this is where, like in my programs, I'm basically teaching you first to be aware of your thoughts, be aware of how you're feeling, okay? And then how do you manage that? Earlier, we flipped the thought that why does something always bad happen when things are going well, type of thing, right? Once you're aware of it, that's like 90%. The thoughts are easier to flip. Just takes a little awareness and practice. The emotions, right? People need to get in tune with a little bit just to start paying attention to how they're feeling. Some people are really good at this. A lot of us in our society are not, because we shut off our emotions, right? When we were little, like, boys are tough, boys don't cry. And I played sports, right? So I had to be tough. And in my household, we didn't express emotions. We never said, I love you. We did express some negative emotions, and I think a lot of us had childhoods like this. And I think the younger people are more open, right? They're talking about their anxiety and some of their other feelings.
Yeah, definitely. I see that there definitely, on a whole, seems to be greater awareness about mental health and a real effort to help people through that. And it isn't as taboo now, right? So, because like you said, yeah, when I was a kid, no one really talked about mental health struggles. My dad, and I don't know if anyone out there listening knows this, but my dad committed suicide when I was a kid, and no one really knew what was going on. He was keeping a journal and would kind of share things with one of his friends, but no one really knew how serious it was until it was too late. And I'm so glad now that people are realizing the dangers of keeping it all bottled up and are open and expressing it more. But yeah, we still have a long way to go, I think, in our society before we really fully come to terms with what's going on internally. So very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough topic for a lot of people to get into all that. And there are a lot of strange things happening in the world where, you want to show support for people. You don't want to make their situation worse. And so now it almost seems like we're, I don't know, on some level going to the opposite extreme where we're kind of enabling a lot of stuff that causes mental health issues. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting world we live in. So it's kind of, it's still delicate to kind of talk about and navigate some of this stuff. What would you say? I'm curious because, I think back on, the limiting beliefs that I developed because of my childhood and things like that, maybe some trauma. I mean, are there other specific ways that you deal with trauma, that kind of thing, that differs, or is it just kind of already the things that we've been talking about, visualization and some of these other techniques?
I really like there's an inner child visualization. It can be done as a meditation. It's incredibly powerful. It's definitely a deeper level than where we just gave the energy certain shapes. I don't know how much time we had, but if you had an example like of something that happened when you were younger, we could do it in, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes if you wanted to be brave enough to try that.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot. This is interesting because there's a lot of probably insecurity attached to some of the things that happened as a kid, right? And I've always been introverted my whole life, and it's been a real effort to put myself out there in the world, to talk to random strangers, right? So that all takes a lot of work for me. And to take it to the level of really opening up to whoever's listening, I mean, I don't know if I can. That might be a stretch for me on this show right now.
Okay.
I'm currently at, but yeah. What were you gonna say?
I'll generalize. Okay, I can describe it.
Yeah.
Like traditional therapy, right? People go and they talk about their problems, and they may get to the experience of where it happened, where that belief or that emotional trauma was, whatever it is. And I don't like labels either. Like, all that matters is how that child felt. It doesn't have to be traumatic. A lot of us, because we were tough, we had some bad experiences when we were little. And I'm like, I wasn't traumatized. That wasn't trauma. But when I learned to do this and I tapped into like my 8-year-old inner child, that was freaking traumatic for me. Okay. I had an experience where my mom got really mad, and I definitely had a mouth on me, even at 8. If you know me, you're not surprised. And she was in a rage, and she took a belt and she whipped me all over my body. Right. And this would happen, occasionally for like 4 years. Okay. Which is fine. It's when I talk about like I was mastering the 5%, okay, and I had learned all this healing. I could clear resistance and energy, and I was positive. I resonated strongly with all these positive affirmations, okay, and I go to one mentor, his weekend event, and like 2 hours in, he takes us in an inner child meditation, and my 8-year-old boy comes forward, and I can feel what he feels. Okay. And then I was aware enough where I start doing all my affirmations, and I'm weak with all of them. And this is when I knew I had found what I knew I was missing, because I go to these healing trainings and I can tell the healers need healing. And very few people have really cleared all their stuff. Okay. But this is where I discovered, the 5% compared to the subconscious, but then you've got emotional and energetic and spiritual as well. Most of society, we're focused on the tippy tip of the iceberg. Okay. The tippy top. So I can take you back to this version of you. I would say, and if anyone wants to play along, you can play along, because a lot of us know where things happened that left an imprint on us. Okay. I'll say, imagine that version of you, that little boy or girl comes forward. Okay. And by the way, I always preface, you don't have to experience it again. And then I'll usually also say, we give meaning to certain emotions like grief or anger or pain and suffering, right? There's a heaviness to the words. But if you take a step back and you view it as energy, you can give it flavors, like it could be cherry or watermelon or lemon or black licorice for one I don't like so much. And then all of a sudden it's easier, right? We're just playing and we're releasing these flavors of energy because whatever happened, it's in the past. It doesn't exist anymore. We just have some kind of attachment or some emotion that we're holding on to from the experience, okay? So you meet with your inner version of you, your little boy or girl, and it could be any age, by the way, even like yesterday, doesn't matter. And I'm usually given what emotions will come up. Some people are empathic or they just know. You might know. I'll ask you, well, what was that child feeling? You can even view it like on a TV or a movie screen, or you can imagine you're sitting on a bench and watching an event. So you're more of that observer. You're not in it. Because again, you don't have to relive it. But you can say, okay, that little boy, he was feeling unloved, unwanted. And maybe he was shocked at what happened. So there was that surprise. Some of us had experiences where we felt punched in the gut, right? There's a lot of rough experiences out there. Maybe we felt betrayed, right? And you can go through all the emotions that come up, okay? And again, like we visualized the pulling out of energy earlier, I'll say, okay, now imagine there's cords coming out of you and that inner child, okay? And each one is attached to some of this emotional energy. And I just have you visualize pulling out the cords. And as you release that energy, feel it release and feel lighter, okay? And we go through that process and people can play along if they want. And just choose to love yourself and let it go. It doesn't exist anymore. You don't have to keep dragging that energy around. It's old energy. Just let it go. I like the words choose to love yourself, okay? Because many of us are very hard on ourselves. Like in my book, Formula for Lasting Happiness, it's step 2, self-love. And there's a mirror exercise for self-love. But people choose to love themselves, let all that energy go, okay? And you'll know when you've released everything because they'll say, now look at your inner child again. Are they happy and smiling? Or is there more for us to release here? And when you've got it all, the child will be happy and smiling. I mean, it is profound, okay? And you literally heal when that happens. And if someone has aches or pains that are associated with that energy, the physical feeling in the body will shift at the same time. Sometimes it might take a day or two or whatever, but sometimes it's like that. And a lot of times then I'll say, okay, what would you like to tell and share with that inner child right now? And it's like, man, the freaking wisdom that comes out and the beauty of it, like, right? When we're children, we're so young and we're so innocent and pure and stuff happens. I don't know if we cuss on this show, but stuff happens, right? You know what I mean? And we just try to get through it, right? We don't know, especially when we're really young. We have no freaking idea what's going on, but we got to get through it. So, and a lot of us we held that energy in because what else could we do with it, you know? And if we weren't perfect, we were disciplined in a lot of cases, right? So we had to be perfect. This is where a lot of anxiety comes from because we don't want to make a mistake because we got punished whenever we made a mistake. And then we blamed ourselves for making the mistake, right? But it's like, how do you learn and grow and experience this amazing world if you're not willing to do things and make mistakes, right? So at the end, the inner child will be happy and the person will share with this kid. And it is so healing and so amazing. I had a session, an in-person session recently, and this guy goes, "Man, that was a lot of stuff to tell a 7-year-old." You know, because I mean, he went on like at least 5 solid minutes, like telling him all these things, like to the kid, and it's just beautiful, man. It's profound. I don't know how else to describe it. There's not really words to describe it, but it's very simple in concept, and I feel blessed. Like I have an energy that just, it seems to facilitate people being able to do this. Because I've had clients come to me and they say, "I did this on YouTube. I was pulling chords on YouTube, but when you do it, I feel it."
Yeah, it's almost like a gift that you can give it, be able to really help others. I think it's amazing. I think there's a lot to this. I know that for most people listening, I mean, maybe it's especially true in kind of the business world. We have a very, I don't know, is that the right side of the brain that we're mostly leading with? And where a lot of this stuff, it's kind of the little woo-woo is what they call it, right? It seems too out there and impractical, but I think that it absolutely is critical to remove the blocks in our lives, and we have to dig deep into ourselves and do things like this if we ever want to be able to release the stuff holding us back. And so I'm absolutely enthralled with this concept and these ideas, because I know I have so many blocks. I know that there's so much that I have to get over or figure out with myself, or release, if I'm ever going to be the best version of myself. And so, yeah, it's amazing stuff. It makes me also, think about how I can, as a parent, help my children avoid developing blocks, right? What would you say to someone like that? Are there some practical things maybe to the parents listening out there that you can give them?
You're cracking me up right now. So this book here, The Formula for Lasting Happiness, it is subtitled "For Teens, Kids, Parents, and Everyone Else." Okay. And the reason it's subtitled like that is because obviously I've worked with adults primarily. And it's exactly what you're asking. If we had only learned and figured this out when we were little, we wouldn't have had to repeat all these patterns and continue to make all these mistakes and be stuck. Okay. Because you're literally supposed to have an experience, take the lessons, the golden nuggets, learn from it, and then let it go. Okay. And like we just did in a couple different ways, you let the energy go and the emotions go. You choose to love yourself, and you just never go back to that experience. You take the good and you go on, you learn, and you have bigger and better experiences. Okay. So the first step in the formula for lasting happiness is I have people connect with their hearts. Okay. The heart, like I said, emotions, energetics are way more powerful than this monkey brain that limits us here. Okay. When you start to spend time in your heart, I like to say, you discover you have 2 voices. The old cartoons, maybe you had an angel on one shoulder and something else on the other one. But I view this in this way, the heart and what I call the monkey brain or monkey mind. Okay. This can be very negative, and it likes to drag us through things and our mistakes over and over and over again, right? But when you get adept at tuning into here, this is love, and this is happiness, and this is peace, and this is compassion. This is also passion and fire, right? When you want to find that motivation to go conquer the world and whatever it is you want to do, you're not going to think yourself into being that motivated. You've got to feel it, right? You've got to ignite the fire here. So to me, everything starts with the heart. And it was a huge shift in my life when I discovered that, okay? This is the one thing I tell everyone they have to master, okay? And I train people on how to do that, of course. But step 2 is the self-love, and there's a mirror exercise. So imagine your children. When they make a mistake, if they learn to laugh at their mistakes and not beat themselves up and not expect themselves to be perfect, right? If we encourage our children to try new things and make mistakes and learn and grow from those mistakes, you understand how much more powerful that is. And then they're not being punished and beating themselves up all the time. And self-love, they're looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, Nino. I love you, man. And it's okay if you make mistakes. I don't know anyone who's perfect. This is how we learn and grow. And some of my biggest lessons and biggest growth and most amazing experiences have come from my biggest mistakes. Okay? So those 2 things are huge. If you can learn not to beat yourself up when you make a mistake, because we're all total a-holes to ourselves. We'll forgive everyone else. Your children are perfect. I mean, you may bust their chops or whatever when they screw up, but you still love them no matter what, right? But when you make a mistake, oh my God, Nino, how could I do that? And it just goes on and on and on. So I still make mistakes, right? And I'm doing really, really amazing stuff. I don't even know anyone who does the things I do. Of course, I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm just playing anyway. But sometimes, like, communication is a challenge with us humans, right? Because you're in your world and they're in their world, and communication is a challenge. So sometimes I miscommunicate with people, right? And I'll own the mistake. And if I'll feel bad for like 5 minutes. And I know some people are going to be like, he's such a jerk. He only feels bad for 5 minutes. Okay. I care. I really do care. Right. But at some point, if I keep dragging myself through it over and over again, I'm just hurting me. The mistake happened. I owned it. I will love them. I'll do everything I can for them. Right. But I'm not going to keep feeling those negative energies and beating myself up, because that's just hurting me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's incredible advice for anyone listening out there. This has been so much fun, this conversation. We're out of time, unfortunately, and there are some other things that I wish we could have gotten into, but maybe another time I'll have you back. Where can people go to connect with you?
Best place is my website, dwightdalemiller.com. And you can book like exploration sessions with me if you want to talk about what coaching looks like. Again, multi-week, multi-month if you really want to transform. This is the way to do it. You can master your thoughts, your emotions, your energy. I mean, you'll be transformed. I'm also on Instagram. I haven't been too active on Instagram lately, but everything's my full name, Dwight Dale Miller. Same with my books on Amazon.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll have the links to everything, your website, your book as well. I'll make sure that's in the show notes. So if you're listening, just go there to connect with Dwight. What's your final message to our audience?
I just want you to know that 1, everything is possible. And 2, you are way more powerful than you realize.
That's perfect. I think that's a powerful and very important message for everyone listening out there. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dwight. This has been amazing. To all our listeners, thanks for being here. Your support means everything to us. Make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you're listening to this on, and please share this with anyone that needs to hear this message. Thank you again, Dwight, and we'll see everyone in the next episode.
All right. Thank you, Nino.